We are never ever getting back together. I mean, when you get right down to it, Asaveir and Jam are a long way away. What can they even do about this? Rodrigo thought he was being rhetorical, but Vianeta de Savros had had enough of his company, this meal, and this assignation. She wondered what she'd ever seen in this idiot. How could she ever have thought this man would be a good match for her? She savoured a mouthful of admittedly reasonably adequate pilf, and then carefully put her fork down. What can they even do? She mimicked Rodrigo's voice, tone light but words sharpened. I don't know. Let's think about it. Jam is basically what you'd get if you took the Conclave and gave it complete control of the Bourse, the Military Council, and the Imperial Treasury, without any pesky synod in the way talking about virtue or wringing its hands about what the little people would think. A nation where wizards are in charge, without a thresher or a vate in sight to say steady on. Up until now, they've mostly been worried about the upcoming war with our good friends the Commonwealth, but we've just reached halfway across the known world and smashed the international slave trade. I imagine if I had all the resources of the Senate and the Conclave, I might be able to spare some of it to send, say, 12 magicians on a boat with a bucket of mana. They don't even need to come to the Empire. They can just stop off with their Grendel friends and cast a few little enchantments over their armies or their castles. Well, sure, but really, when... She didn't give him a chance to interrupt, and he nearly choked on a mouthful of steamed ham. Asaveir? Now surely we don't need to worry about Asaveir. A toothless old nation with a bickering plenum far to the west, constantly entangled with our good friends the Sumar Republic. I mean, sure, that plenum has effectively complete control of their military, and is entirely supported by the equivalent of their synod, and believes they have literal gods on their side, and have been playing underhanded political games at home and abroad since before the Dornish arrived on the Bay of Katazar, and have forgotten more about building warships than we currently know. Sure, why should we worry about them? It's not as if they share our ability to pay their enterprising ship captains to sail halfway around the known world to come raid our shipping or help our enemies, or just sell them cheap materials so they can build bigger armies, is it? Oh, of course, I mean if you want to get all speculative about it, Rodrigo snorted. But if we leave all that aside, what can they even do about all this? She stared at his stupid red face for a full 30 seconds, then dabbed her mouth with her napkin. Oh, if you leave all that aside, all those things I just came up with off the top of my head after 10 seconds of thought, then no, they can't do anything and we have absolutely nothing to worry about. Rodrigo allowed a broad grin to occupy his face and took a self-satisfied gulp of his wine. Vianeta caught the eye of her Sisisbio, raised her finger to attract the waiter, and favoured her dinner companion with a broad smile of her own in preparation for explaining to him why they would not be seeing each other again after tonight, and what might happen if they did. A post-Rachensgrab world. The Fleet Admiral was Abel of Zenith Ascendant of Urizen. The international slave trade has been utterly shattered by the actions of the Liberty Pact. As the Imperials who ventured to Rachensgrab return home from the raid, rumours start to spread from those who still have contacts in Nemoria, Cavor, Vizak, and Rigia. The raid has sent shockwaves careening through Asavean and Jarmish society. After Shaloncio, the two great powers must have realised something was coming, but they could not have been prepared for the speed with which the Empire moved to topple the slave lords. Entire merchant families have been ruined, their investment in human and orc misery disappearing like morning mist. Magicians and covens who had existing deals with the now destroyed Faram Vex have lost everything. The two nations are scrabbling to work out what they do now, with the steady supply of exploitation that they had relied on cut off at the source. There are rumblings from both the plenum and the House of Princes that this is a perfect demonstration of how dangerous the Empire is. But for now, the Empire and their allies are free to celebrate their triumph. They have, without a doubt, made the world a slightly less dreadful place for an awful lot of people, both in the present and in the future. Legitimate salvage. Abel of Zenith Ascendant will have the deeds to 10 fleets and 2 ritual texts at the upcoming summit. 2 ritual texts and 10 fleets were acquired as loot in addition to the weapons, foci, wains, crowns and autumn viz from Rakensgrab. The 10 fleets are waiting in the docks of Sarvos, being made fit to sail by the Sarvos Shipwrights Syndicate. Though none of them have suffered massive damage, all of the ships were due for some repairs. Anyone that provides the deed to the civil service, out of character note, please take to God, will be able to swap their personal resource free of charge. The Liberty Pact. All members of the Liberty Pact enjoy free trade with each other. The ambassador to the Commonwealth is Lucia Sangueno Rezia de Tesato of the League. The ambassador to the Sumar Republic is Accolon of Felix's Watch of Highguard. The ambassador to Axos is currently Tarquinius Ancarian of Urizen. The might of the signatory nations of the Liberty Pact was made manifest with the utter shattering of the international slave trade in Rakensgrab. The previous season in Shaloncio, the Empire, the Sumar and the Commonwealth demonstrated their commitment to ending the abhorrent practice of slavery. Closer to home, the Empire has secured significant change in both Thule and Faraden society. There is talk that the Iron Confederacy may be moving towards a serf system following pressure from their neighbours to the north. Although some question whether this is really any different to slavery when one gets right down to it. Clearly, the might of the Liberty Pact is in its ascendancy. But what comes next? In the wake of Shaloncio, the Sumar are keen to strike directly at their old enemies in Nemoria. The Commonwealth are busy accommodating thousands of people freed from the markets of Rakensgrab, but they are also increasing pressure in Lantir. While the citadels of Axos are thriving, they have time to consider their own ambitions, which might not align entirely with their larger neighbours. Asavea and Jarm have not renounced slavery. The evil still exists in the world. Yet there is a world of difference between smashing an independent organisation such as the Slave Lords, no matter how influential they might be, and facing the might of another great power, the equal of the Empire. Commonwealth Rituals. The Commonwealth has provided 5 ritual texts to the Imperial Conclave. As per their previous agreement, the Commonwealth has prepared ritual texts for the Imperial Conclave. As requested in the Declaration of Endowment raised by Skywise Gralka during the summer solstice, they will be presented to the Grand Masters of the Rod and Shield, Unfettered Mind, Celestial Arch, and Golden Pyramid at the start of the conclave session on Friday evening. Axu Narcotics. The Axu of the tunnels of Kaban are slowly working to reclaim their citadel. There is an increased trade in narcotics from Axos to the Empire. More and more narcotics are making their way over the border to the Empire to be sampled by those who make the journey to Anvil. The Assembly of 9 directed the Silent Bell to investigate the distribution of Axu narcotics throughout the Empire and their effects on Imperial citizens, and that full report will be made available to the Assembly of 9 at the upcoming summit. The Freedom Accord. The Asavean plenum declared war on the Empire during the autumn equinox 384 YE. The Imperial Senate has embargoed the Principalities of Jarm. The Principalities of Jarm have severed ties with the Empire. The ambassador to Asavea is Pact of the Imperial Orcs. The ambassador to Jarm is currently Gelert Ashbourne of Navarre. Beyond a report on the Temple of the Noble Virtues, there has been precious little news from the Asavean archipelago. No merchants come to offer their wares in Sarvos, nor have ships come to check if the overseer of the Cava Bianca dock has any orders. Any fleet captains who might for some reason try to trade in Nemoria are harried as they withdraw by ships crewed by mercenaries, apparently eager to earn bonuses from the deep pockets of the wealthy plenum. The Principalities of Jarm are very dangerous for anyone who has previously championed the Empire as a worthy ally. There are rumours of escalation in Lantir, and the clear and present threat that the Commonwealth represents to the south. Asavean Heretics. The recently renovated Temple of the Noble Virtues has fallen upon hard times in Nemoria in response to imperial involvement in the raids on Chaloncio and Rakensgrab, and Asavea's decision to declare war on the Empire. The would-be first priest of virtue, Portilium Traposdo, has been publicly humiliated and shamed, effectively marked as a traitor for his association with the warlike disruptive faith of the enemy. Indeed, he has had to sell one of the immense gold and bronze idols that represented the virtues, the one representing prosperity, to one of the Grendel who reside permanently in Nemoria. Grendel. The Empire has placed sanctions on trade with the Grendel. The position of ambassador to the Grendel is currently vacant. The construction of the Grendel embassy has finally been completed. The position of ambassador to the Grendel will be appointed at the second Senate session of the upcoming winter solstice. Some enterprising freeborn have a cunning plan to steal the Scarrero nets from under the nose of Governor Rahab, and there are known to be a group of Grendel priests visiting Anvil. The peace treaty with the Grendel is due to be renegotiated during the spring equinox. Over the past year, the imperial citizens and orcs of the Broken Shore have engaged in multiple trade deals, primarily with Salt Lord Kaliact of Spiral, which have apparently resulted in prosperity all around. Private negotiations. Salt Lord Kaliact of Spiral has requested a meeting between her representatives and a number of imperial citizens this summit. Speaker Kirstag and party will arrive at Anvil around 12:30 on Saturday. There is a very specific group of people they wish to meet with. As the winter solstice approaches, messengers from Spiral arrive at Anvil to request a meeting be arranged. Salt Lord Kaliact is sending her trusted negotiator Speaker Kirstag and her advisors to Anvil to discuss matters related to the peace treaty and its upcoming renegotiation. When pressed for more, the messengers say that this is all they were told. What they do have is a list of people who are to be invited to the meeting. The list appears to be a little esoteric, in part due to the fact that there is currently no ambassador to the Grendel, although this position is due to be elected this season. Where the meeting is to be hosted is a matter for the Empire to decide, apparently, although the messengers suggest that the Urizen encampment will be most familiar to the attendees. Speaker Kirstag and their party will arrive at the gates of Anvil around 12:30 on Saturday. The following Imperial citizens are invited to attend the negotiations. Valerius, in their position as the Spiral envoy and with their responsibilities to ensure good trade relations with the Grendel in Spiral. Sejanus, in their position as the senator for Redoubt. Esteban y del Rio Blanco y Guerra, as the former Imperial Fleetmaster whose audacity inspired the Grendel to open negotiations. Ezro y Alvera y Erigo, as the current Imperial Fleetmaster who until recently held authority to negotiate on behalf of the Empire. And Andronikos of the lighthouse at Nikophoros, and whichever trusted friend he chooses to bring with him. Visiting Armada. At least one of the Grendel navies is currently off the coast of Necropolis. Many of their sailors have been visiting the hostelries and taverns of the territory. There was some panic when the first sailors of the Grendel first arrived in Necropolis a month after the autumn equinox. Clearly this wasn't any kind of invasion, but what if it was? As the days turned into weeks and the Grendel remained in Necropolis, it became clear that at least one of their navies was anchored off the coast of the territory. The navies are far away enough to ensure they are not breaching any borders, though not far away enough not to be affected by a ritual targeting the territory. The business owners of Necropolis are unsure what to do about their newest guests. Should they be welcomed and catered to? Coin is coin, after all, even if it comes from a Grendel. And the Imperial Senate did agree to a peace treaty with the Orcs of the Broken Shore, even if they have just enacted sanctions on them. There are still some who are unsure, though, and ask the National Assembly of Highguard to make a statement of principle on the matter. If the statement is in favour of trading with the Grendel, then every owner of a business based in Necropolis will receive additional income before the spring equinox. If the statement is not in favour of trading with the Grendel, or no statement is raised, then the Highborn will continue to keep the visitors at arm's length, which will lead to them seeking greener pastures elsewhere. Sarkafan Delves. The Sarkafan Delves remain interested in securing for themselves the free trade enjoyed by the signatories to the Liberty Pact. The ambassador to the Sarkafan Delves is Thalia of Netherwatch of Urizen. Visiting traders from the Sarkafan Delves continue to eagerly ply their goods to merchants, though with so many other nations receiving preferential treatment in imperial ports, their enthusiasm is beginning to wane. The offer of opening a new port to imperial fleet captains in return for free trade, however, is still very much on the table, and Bedelar Huisbas Anike awaits word on a treaty from the ambassador to the Sarkafan Delves. The Vandasar opportunity. The Vandasar are willing to sell ingots and measures as part of a new Alivetti market. The Alivetti market would require a commission, 10 wains of weirwood, 20 crowns, and take 3 months to construct. Commissioning the market could be done as part of a wider treaty with the Sarkafan Delves. The Vandasar have offered to sell a variety of common materials to the Empire. The offer has been apparently made in response to a previous request from former ambassador Thanmir Hrafnar. The Empire would need to appoint a representative, trademaster of Alivetti Market perhaps, to oversee the traders of the League who might wish to purchase from the Vandasar merchants who operate the market. The trademaster would of course have access to premium rates in recognition of their hard work. The Vandasar have marked out an area they believe would be most suitable for the market. There is an old, forgotten villa with a personal dock which is sadly falling apart. If the Empire were to provide 10 wains of weirwood, the Vandasar would be able to repair the damage to the docks and expand them slightly, allowing a private berth for imperial merchants wishing to visit the market and purchase goods. The Gulit proposal. The Gulit family have made an offer to sell regular supplies of weirwood to the Empire. Altering the palace docks in cargo would require a commission, 60 crowns, and take 3 months to complete. Building new docks elsewhere would require a new commission, 15 wains of white granite, 15 wains of weirwood, and 60 crowns, and take 3 months to complete. The Gulit family are beginning to feel secure in their place at the great table of Sarkafan politics. They have managed to arrange other buyers for the weirwood and white granite they previously offered the Empire, and invest the resulting funds. Now they have approached the Empire with another deal. They have managed to acquire a steady supply of weirwood and are prepared to offer it to the Imperial Senate for first refusal before taking the wains elsewhere. They aren't offering a bulk order of weirwood, rather they are preparing to commit to delivering a regular supply. Perhaps most enticingly, the Senate won't necessarily need to construct an entirely new dock for the family to use. A representative of the Gulit has visited the palace docks in cargo and suggests that with some renovations to allow the superior Sarkafan vessels to dock, they would be able to use it to deliver wains of weirwood to the city every season. This would require a Senate motion to alter the existing commission, costing the Imperial Treasury 60 crowns, but would require significantly less than constructing an entirely new dock. They suggest it be renamed the Gulit Docks in the process. Alternatively, the Imperial Senate could construct an entirely new set of docks anywhere along the Bay of Katazar. The Gulit suggest that if the Brass Coast are looking to begin constructing a navy, as the construction of the School of Blood and Brass would suggest, then it might be the ideal place to secure a steady income of weirwood. Construction would require a commission, 15 wains of white granite, 15 wains of weirwood, 60 crowns, and take 3 months. Either option would need to be overseen by someone, trademaster of the Gulit Docks, perhaps, which would need to be elected through the Imperial Bourse, but could be done via auction of the seats or tally of the votes, as the Senate saw fit. There is some question about where this bounty of weirwood is coming from, but the Gulit laughingly refuse to reveal their sources. The last thing they want is the Empire cutting them out of the loop and making their own deal with the people who have the weirwood. Where would the prosperity in that be? Knights in Anvil. The Iron Confederacy have removed their embargo but still have sanctions on imperial trade. 3 Surani lawkeeper knights are visiting Anvil to talk to the militia. They are expected to arrive in Anvil at 10:30 on Friday. The ambassador to the Iron Confederacy is currently Lord Colwyn de Rondel of Dawn. As part of the treaty agreed with the Iron Confederacy, the port of Robeck is once again open to imperial fleets. The other part of the treaty is a direction for the magistrates and local militia to work alongside Surani knights to seek out members of the Hand of Dumont. 3 lawkeeper knights, sworn to uphold the laws of Arav the Judge, are intending to visit Anvil. Jeanette Marianne and her companions are expecting to arrive at around 10:30 on the first night of the summit, and will be journeying first to the militia tent to talk to their counterparts. The knights are not affiliated with any house of the Iron Confederacy, instead having pledged their lives to uphold Surani law without favour to any one faction. Free Nation of Bregas. During the autumn equinox, Matilda Fisher journeyed to Anvil and met with the Imperial Consul. Matilda Fisher maintains control over Bregasland. The Imperial Consul is Jarek Orzel of Dawn. The steward of Bregasland, Matilda Fisher, and Harold Longaxe, representative of Gudmundur Arason, met with Jarek Orzel, the Imperial Consul, Bridget Talbot, the Imperial Administrator, Avicenna I Charismi I Guerra, the Senator for Segura, and Oric, the former Senator for Bregasland. During the meeting, an unknown marcher jumped the barrier to the viewing gallery in an attempt to assassinate Fisher. There is still potentially talk of a treaty, but so far the Senate has provided no assurances to the steward of Bregasland. The rough details of what Matilda wants are no secret. She speaks of them regularly in Bregasland. Any treaty with the Fishers would need to create an independent nation of Bregasland, with the Empire and the Jotun both respecting the borders of the territory. The strong Reeds would need to withdraw from the territory, and the Jotun would remove their armies in turn. Any imperial citizens living in Bregasland would be allowed to leave should they wish. Trade between the Empire and the Free Nation of Bregas would be discussed at a future date, but would be possible. The Fishers of Bregasland would no longer support the armies of the Jotun, and all thralls in Bregasland, of which there are apparently none anyway, would be freed. The taking of thralls in the territory of Bregasland would be outlawed. Trade and tariffs. Last season the Senate voted to amend the tariffs on Farad'n, Otkadov and the Iron Confederacy. All ministries that involve purchasing goods from a nation with a free trade tariff by the Senate have an additional purchase rank. Free trade tariffs cause a small loss of taxation to the imperial treasury. Last season, the Imperial Senate voted to amend the tariffs applied to 3 foreign nations. The Senator for Karsk raised a motion to ratify a treaty prepared by the ambassador to Farad'n to remove sanctions from the Farad'n and amend the position of Overseer of the Gloaming Road to be an imperial title. The Senator for Rakos and the Senator for Volodmarts both raised motions to amend trade with the Thule, first to remove sanctions, then to move them to free trade as reparation for the damage inflicted by Thunderous Deluge. The Senator for Mikarova raised a motion to ratify a treaty prepared by the ambassador to the Iron Confederacy to instruct magistrates to cooperate with Surani Knights of the Temples in tracking down the Hand of Dumont, in exchange for the Iron Confederacy removing their embargo on imperial goods and instead applying sanctions. All ministries that involve purchasing goods from nations that have free trade with the Empire have access to an additional purchase track for as long as the tariff applies.